So, here's the thing about The Boys Season 4, and major spoilers for the entire season ahead, yes, including the finale. From the very beginning of the season, lots of fans, not all, were unhappy about both the pace and original direction of the story, and I remember watching the premiere not too long ago and being a little confused why they thought this was the case. I mean, I personally loved it. You are totally entitled to your own opinion, but I was a little bit baffled. But up until episode 4, really, not so many other people seemed on board. And after having just seen the finale, it's so clear now what the writers were planning from that very first episode. And it seems people are ready to finally appreciate this season for the wonderful 8 episodes of television that it is, even if it took a while to build up. From the beginning, this season has been all about facing your demons and confronting the illusion of yourself that you believe yourself to be. And while there has been a lot of character work, unfortunately, a lot of people have seen that as boring, repetitive. So what did people dislike about this season, and how did the finale prove them wrong by utilizing what they built up to create an incredible climax? First of all, I think people are still reeling from last season's finale. I already made a video about this, but many were very upset by Butcher's decision to turn against Soldja Boy, and I won't lie, I think some of that bitterness over that decision did make its way into the criticism of this season. Don't get me wrong, there are many valid critiques, and I'm not saying people here are biased. There's just a hole that Soldja Boy left. I didn't love him as a person, but I did really like him as a character, and I think without him, some people felt a crucial part of The Boys was missing, even though he was just introduced last season. But, like I said, I've already made a video about why his impact is so big. Mostly it's Jensen Ackles. But the writers did have a plan for Soldja Boy. He will be appearing in the final season, as shown by the after-credits scene in the finale. I feel like many people didn't give this season time to ruminate in the decisions that were made before criticizing them, which is also the cause for a lot of other critiques about this season that I'll get to in a bit. It's clear though that the writers were never really planning to put him away forever. You hardly put characters in a locked box safely kept if you never want them to come back again. Another common complaint about this season was that there was too much setup and not enough forward plot momentum in especially the first 3 episodes. Despite the fact that there is a ton of build-up and you can have an effective climax without tension building. Sage's plan, which ended up being incredibly effective, and as I thought, included all of the mistakes, quote-unquote, we thought she and Homelander made as pieces of the puzzle. I really never thought for a second that she actually failed, being the smartest person in the world. I figured she would have contingencies for all of the moves the boys had made. And the reveal of her master plan to arrest Dakota Bob would not have been nearly as satisfying if they didn't carefully piece together, 1, her and Homelander's relationship and partnership, and 2, the way she is able to manipulate Starlight and the rest of the boys to do her bidding, even when they seemingly have plot armor. I mean, they really charged at that plot armor comment in the final scene, huh? Everybody got fucked. Except Annie. Or how about getting context for A-Train's family situation, which helps us understand his decision to help the boys even though it is extremely risky for him. Listen, I know that these scenes might not be as lightning quick as you might be used to in The Boys, but personally, I think these scenes are extremely important for the turns that the characters make in the later episodes. For characters to make those extremely different decisions than we've seen from them thus far, they need to be set up to take a transitional period. One huge part of this build-up that people disliked was Frenchie's arc with Colin. Many fans felt that it was completely unnecessary for the overall story, and hated that Frenchie was not going to end up with Kimiko for a bit. And while I understand their frustration at the time, because I also shipped those two, I would answer those frustrations by explaining the storyline with 2 words: character and development. Since season 2, we've gradually been learning more about Frenchie's character, and last season we learned that he committed some horrible atrocities in the name of a Russian criminal mob, but we don't really get much on Frenchie's part in terms of reflection on those actions last season. The time is taken up by the fact that little Nina is back and alive and actively torturing him and Kimiko. So, season 4 takes part of its first arc to address Frenchie's regrets about his past in a really smart way. Having him play the villain against Colin really portrays Frenchie in a more damaging way than we've seen before. Even though I knew he was bad, and he's admitted to mistakes he has made before, he was always so goofy and one of the most fun members in the group that I think I, and a lot of fans, flew past all of that terrible shit that he's done in his past. I'm glad this season effectively dealt with that while mirroring the development with Kimiko, which also people didn't like. Because these two are able to separately work through their issues, their reunion in the finale that we just got, and then subsequent breaking apart, is that much more effective. Yes, I understand that Kimiko going to speech therapy and working through her issues with Shining Light may seem a little random and not what fans might have wanted the show to focus on. And maybe nobody cares about Frenchie's romantic relationships unless they are Kimiko. But both of these plot lines are important for these characters to face their pasts. Kimiko, though a victim, needs to own up to what she did to others in the name of Shining Light and confront the true reason that she couldn't speak. That way, when she was able to cry out in that final scene, I was so proud of the work she did for earning that moment, even though it was tragic, rather than just being astonished, in shock with no build-up or development to her being able to speak at all. And Frenchie needed to realize how much he actually hurt those around him, and to take responsibility by turning himself in. He did end up in prison at the end of the season, so who knows where we're going next with his arc, but he was busted out but was unhappy about it, and he does get the satisfaction from fully intending to commit himself to prison for probably the rest of his life. Flat out, the moments between these two in the finale wouldn't mean nearly as much if we hadn't explored these darker aspects of the characters as deeply as we did earlier in the season. And y'all know it too. I understand that it may have been a little slower than usual, but despite that, the scenes are still just as vitally important to build up to the beautiful climax that we got. Part of this build up is too slow complaint is also about Starlight's storyline with Firecracker in the beginning of the season, which honestly surprised me even more than Kimiko and Frenchie's, because Starlight probably had my favorite arc of any character on the show this season. While I understand that hearing about the backstage drama of child beauty pageants might not be what you're used to hearing from the boys' characters, but it is so important for Annie's arc over this season. She really loses touch with the hero she thought she was. She starts the season leading the Starlight House in this really high up position, even with a connection to the president, or future president. But Firecracker and Sage are able to prove to the world that she isn't as buttoned up and close to the nice girl stereotype as everyone thinks she is. And the crazy thing is that they were actually kind of right. Annie in the back half of this season really lost touch with her heroic roots and was punching everybody in her path. She was honestly acting like Butcher, and those first few episodes are a great portent for what's coming, but people often just wrote them off as boring conversations, and not the bits of character information that would become important later that they were actually getting. And it pays off, too. In the finale, she has to confront her image of herself, like quite literally through her evil doppelganger, and accept that she is nowhere near the perfect person, especially since evil Annie completely has all of her memories. I mean, she got read for filth here, folks. But that gives her the drive to straight up peel off her hand skin. She pulled an Eren Yeager, by the way, to protect the people she cares about. And I'm glad they took this route with her character, because it helps her fit more in line with the general tone of the boys, both the show and the group, than the actual girl next door hero she started out as. She had to really work, and she still doesn't know exactly who she is, and I'm excited to see where her storyline goes. But from where she started, she is a completely different person, and I was so glad to see that development done tastefully, and I was glad to see it built up well too. Another part of this build up is Huey's storyline with his father. This makes me sad, because I really like this storyline. And also, how could this possibly not be related to the main story? People were also just complaining that the show isn't about Huey enough anymore, and the way they integrated the use of V into the storyline with his dad was very smart, and I feel like makes it extremely relevant to the main storyline. I mean, they were able to turn a sad situation into a debilitating moral dilemma, and show Huey coming out on top much stronger than we all thought he was. I mean, the ability to forgive his mom, forgive A-Train, and kill his dad, that is quite a lot of resolve he has shown this season. Also, there was that, torture scene. I mean, he went through it. And this was so important for Huey's character, though, as he really amped up his confidence and was able to take some huge swings. It's because of this storyline with his father and the courage he got for forgiving his mother and letting him go, not letting him become Jar Jar, that this was all possible. Please don't discount character development, guys. It is so crucial. And another one is Butcher's dilemma and the voices in his head. A lot of people along the lines of saying that things were repetitive, when in the premiere, Butcher tries to get near Ryan, or in the third episode when he decides not to use the drugged cookies and to be good to Ryan, was just repeating scenes we've already had and not really advancing the plot forward. A lot of people felt that way, when really, all of these attempts to bond with Ryan are there to play into Butcher's decision to follow Kessler in the finale. We saw two different sides of Butcher fighting each other, and we needed a reason for one of them to win over the other rather than it's happy ending time, let's resolve. After failing with Ryan with so many attempts to connect, and losing one of his oldest acquaintances, there is so much more incentive for Butcher to turn to that dark side of himself. And while I didn't like it because he made everything worse, I did understand, especially after how hard he tried this season, to listen to Becca and be the good guy that Ryan needs him to be. He was close. I think if they didn't try to trap him in a room, it might have worked. But there needs to be character progression to be able to make these insane plot twist moments happen. Like when Butcher betrays the boys and decides to kill Newman. That way, they make sense, and they don't come out of nowhere. If Butcher was just helping Ryan this entire season and being repetitive, and in the finale, they decide to let him go again, and then Butcher decides to go Scorched Earth, it would make absolutely no sense. But they're not planning on being repetitive. They're just taking hits at Butcher's resolve to make sure it is understandable why he would fall back onto his old Butcher habits. And I think this is also gonna help for those people that criticize Butcher for leaving Soldja Boy in last season's finale. People thought Butcher was being too soft, and this whole season he was kind of criticized for the same thing, but he ended up pulling the most Butcher moves in all of history. I mean, cutting off Samir's leg to force the development of the virus, and, of course, killing Newman instead of being willing to work with her. I'm honestly not sure if they decided to lean back into big ol' bad Butch because of that wide reception to his decision with Soldja Boy or not, but I do think they were smart about how they developed the storyline. The V'd-up tumor forcing Butcher to realize that he hasn't rid that old part of himself that his father created is a really clever way to further Butcher's internal Mora dilemma, and also cement that idea I was talking about earlier about facing your true self. Whereas Butcher wanted to put everything behind him, you don't get to just leave everything behind and move on. It's still a part of you, and Kessler reminded him of that. Another reason why people didn't like this season is because the satire is too obvious. People got mad. I mean, there's been complaints in season 2 that The Boys has gotten too political, when it literally has never not been political. I mean, the first major plotline is about how a top corporation is trying to install super soldiers legally into the military by stealing babies and injecting them with drugs. How is that not political? What I will give these people is that the satire has gotten much more obvious since the show began. I mean, the ice skating routine and the conspiracy theory festival, TruthCon, that is definitely a visible change and is much more apparent than things we saw in, say, the first season. But I would say only the first season, and even then, it was still a little bit obvious. Do I think that these becoming more apparent and visible is a problem? Not really. I don't think obvious satire is a definite sign of declining writing quality. In fact, I think the satire being more and more evident of what it is satirizing is probably intentional and not the case of hackneyed writers. There have been a couple occasions where fans of The Boys have kind of missed the point the show was trying to convey and ended up taking the opposite point. I mean, when I made a video about why people liked Soldja Boy, I made the point of saying that we liked the character, not the person. He's fun, but the person himself is awful, but then I had some people saying, like, he did nothing wrong at all, and that's just, huh? Really? Nothing? Okay, you want to debate about whether or not he's a villain, that is totally fine. You are valid. But nothing wrong? I don't know about that. There are also people who idolize Homelander, even though he could not be a bigger and more obvious piece of crap. So I think that to avoid that common misinterpretation, they grew really immediately after season 1, like I said, it's been very in your face for a while, into being a bit more blatant about what real world issues they are referencing and what they're trying to say about them. I mean, you know, we had A-Train parodying the Pepsi commercial is a fantastic example, but in season 2, we have Brave Maeve's storyline, which is a fantastic satirization of pop culture and its treatment of queer and especially bi people. So I think that this is intentional, and I don't think that it automatically means the writing is worse. In fact, I think they've just tackled different topics because they've had to branch out from the simpler stuff. And the last reason why people really disliked this season more than the others at first is they believed it relied too heavily on gore and shock value. And listen, I totally get this complaint. I mean, things have amped up since season 1, but I don't think this show has ever really not contained a good amount of shock value. And it's only amped up to top itself in that regard, mostly because we all expect it at this point and we need more to surprise us now. But do you remember in season 1 when they killed that dolphin in front of the Deep for no reason? Like, it flew out of the car and then got run over by a truck. Definitely played for laughs too, so I don't know if this is exactly a new concept for this show, even after season 1. I mean, the ass bomb? That was episode 2 of the show, folks. And then you also have shit in season 2 like them ramming headfirst into a whale. Also, if you're talking about the kinky shit, with the train of doubles eating each other's asses, or Tech Knight and Ashley, or the titty milk, or Ambrosia. Yeah, okay, listen, this is why you have to understand why that complaint is valid, because there's been a lot of gross shit this season. But shit like that has been there since day 1. I mean, come on, first episode they go to a soup sex club, and Homelander is thirsting for mommy milkers since that same day. This show has always been insanely raunchy, and while I do think that the Huey scene with Tech Knight was one of the crazier scenes in this show, I didn't really think it was that far out of the show's bubble. In fact, I think the scene with Webweaver shitting webs uncontrollably was far more disgusting, but still in the realm of possibility for these writers. Sometimes with the show, I think the misconception is that they are just doing it for shock value, and that's it. But you have to remember that this show is an action comedy. That scene with Webweaver was gross, but undeniably a hilarious superhero gag. And that's what a lot of this show is. When these things are played for laughs, it's not useless. This show is supposed to make you laugh, even if it is very disgusting. As well, this disgusting and violent nature is very purposeful for the drama aspect of this show too. The nature of V is not shied away from, as we saw with Ashley in this finale. By the way, I'm scared for her. And the shapeshifter this season, one of the most disgusting powers possible. I would also like to nominate Vomit Acid Man. He's up there. And Butcher's new power. What is that? Ew. But it is a horrifying drug that is deforming babies and adults now. They have to make this shit gross and undesirable because you aren't supposed to want to have these superpowers. That's the whole point of the show. All these superpowers are viewed as the coolest thing ever, but the way they get them and what they actually are absolutely disgusting. No one should want to have that much power. Right? And the fact that all of these soups can't help but fight in these disgusting, violent, bloody battles or disfiguring themselves or others goes to show that they shouldn't exist. And I think that, when used to prove the show's main point, isn't useless. Anyway, now that we've gotten through the big complaints, here's a few things I've seen many people praise about season 4, because we love PosiTVty here. I have to work so hard to say PosiTVty and not PosiTVty. A-Train's development, incredibly well done and carefully done, so it isn't an immediate switch from bad to good. His silent help with the boys gradually transforming into genuine hero work when he realizes the benefit of truly doing good was masterfully written, and I think most people do agree on that. A-Train transformed from the hero who thought that nothing would ever change and who was fully immersed in the Vought culture to the hero that actually wanted to do good in people's lives. Black Noir's replacement is another positive. He's no original Black Noir. Don't get me wrong, we'll always miss him, but I think we can all agree that he is fucking hilarious, and he can fly. But he's also narcoleptic. They just gave this guy so many random, excellent qualities that make him such a fun replacement character for the original Noir, even if he isn't as wise or sage-like. Sage? Homelander's arc. As usual, no complaints about Anthony Starr's performance or the writing for Homelander, even through those first few episodes that most people disliked. I mean, how could you dislike this storyline? I think this was his best season yet. Finding out that he was aging and his reaction to being human and his trying to abandon that but being ultimately unsuccessful was very powerful. The mirror splitting scene, it split even further and it gave us more sides to Homelander's personality. It was brilliant, wonderfully played by Starr. Plus, his genuine hurt and betrayal with Ryan and A-Train somehow, even though they're not friends.
A-Train? How could he do this to me?
Was conveyed perfectly. I could feel that pain and insecurity coming off of him. And the childlike wonder when he is presented with Firecracker's jugs, I'm uncomfortable about it still, is both hilarious and believable. And you can't discount his return home, somehow putting Homelander in a slightly satisfying revenge story that characterizes his younger years as more of a nightmare than we already thought they were, and it gives us more insight into the monster he's become. But it ultimately shows what is true about Homelander and what the show has been trying to say this whole time. He can try to say that he is above human behavior, that he is better than regular humans, but ultimately it is his human nature that is going to bring him back down to the ground. Overall, I loved season 4. I think there are so many definitely valid complaints and critiques, and I'm not trying to say in this video that anyone is wrong for disliking the first part of season 4. I just think we should consider the purpose of those scenes before we rag on them, especially since the finale revealed a lot about what they were planning since the first episode. Of course, not every episode is a 10, but I genuinely feel that there is enough forward plot momentum, and absolutely is packed with character development in each episode to play into the great climax that finale just gave us. And I think those things are the reason why the finale was so momentous. And while it doesn't have an IMDb rating yet, I am extremely eager to see what it gets, and I hope that people will be able to appreciate it for the really great finale that it was. Anyway, thank you all for watching this video so much. I really appreciate every bit of support you guys give me. Let me know in the comments what video you'd like next. I love making videos about the boys, so if you'd like to see more of that, feel free. But if you want to see something else, that is totally fine as well. I do a bunch of different shows, and I haven't done a bunch of other shows than Boys and BoJack in quite a while, so suggest whatever you want. And if you want more content, go to patreon.com/PosiTVty, that's PosiTVty. There you get all this content early, and you get the unedited essay, so you get to hear me mess up a million times, and read the script as I actually wrote it and without changing things on the spot. Plus, you can join for free and just get quick 2-minute previews of those early videos if you want to stay ahead of the YouTube crowd. All you have to do is create a Patreon account, and we appreciate all the support we get there and in YouTube as well. You guys have been great lately, and we love it. We love you guys. It's great. I never know how to end these. They always end so poorly. The last video I made was, like, actually awful, too. So I'm just gonna say, good job, writers of The Boys, and no IMDb rating yet. Damn!